Welcome to Risky Thoughts with Rob and Roy.
I'm Rob.
And I'm Roy. And today we have David. We have David with us.
David with us,
right?
yes.
And he's a friend from our past. We went to university together. And we just decided to change things up, add someone to the panel, and have a discussion. Or maybe an intervention, right? So I do want to come clean. I'm now 3 weeks
vegan
as being a vegan. So now I've upgraded to from a vegetarian to a vegan. And I guess, Rob, his very kind of discerning self-skeptical in nature is kind of prodding me on how can you do this? And
give me the reasons why. And all I want to know is give me the rationale behind your decision making.
Right.
And a point that David made right now is does that even matter?
Right.
Why do you need to know the reasons? And
so let's start there then.
Yeah, this is where I wanted to explore.
Let's skip the vegan stuff and let's go straight into it, right?
Well, we can sort of we can piggyback off of the vegan discussion. So I obviously started asking the questions to find a hole in your logic to be well, that's not you if that's your reasoning for it, well, you're wrong then, because this is take this for example, and it shatters your whole argument. And it's well, where's the productivity in me doing that?
What's the objective here, right? Do you want him to stop, or do you want him to start eating meat?
Well, I think
and the thing is I don't even know why I was doing that. I was just doing it by nature of my behavior.
So I think I'm gonna just speak for you
here
because there's certain people like Rob who as Zhang,
they're kind of they're skeptics, right?
They're skeptics,
and I think everybody in their life probably knows someone like that. Well, that will try and get to the truth by figuring out what is not the truth.
Yeah, and that's how one navigates the world. There's a part of me that does that too, right? I think initially you thought I was just this bandwagoner, ideologically possessed, but I do have arguments to support my belief system.
But that's when it's that point to when you tell me that you have arguments is when I go into
that mode
where it's oh, you have arguments, do you?
Yeah.
Let me poke some holes in these arguments.
Start licking
right?
your lips.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm getting ready to eat my steak. No pun intended here, but
I think it's okay. So just as a quick, we won't battle these points. Number one, it's unsustainable. Right. Number two, there's a lot of suffering. I'm a very humanitarian type of person, so there's a moral side of it. Right. Once I follow the same logic as you did and the same strategy of really carving out the space. Are these animals actually suffering? Is the planet actually in a bad shape because of it? Right. And when I looked at the science, let's just say that the science showed me that, this is, you have to feed. Think about you as a human being, how much food you eat in a week.
Well, it's not you as a human being, it's you as a North American human being.
A North American human being, and okay, let's just...
Okay, so we're starting to go down the road that we didn't want to go down.
Okay.
Yeah, so I want to steer clear of this.
Okay, yeah.
Because that was a good 30-second plug for every vegetarian in the world.
Okay.
But in the meantime, the whole intent of this conversation was to understand why I am challenging, or I personally feel the need to dismantle people's arguments and thought process,
right.
and people like me who have this tendency. David, whatever, is the first person to date, okay, maybe not the first, but in this type of realm of conversation, to really make me think about why I'm even asking these questions or trying to prove you wrong. There's no value in it. So
no, there is value in it.
I think what we were talking about, there's value on a macro level, right? I think is when you take it to the individual level and you're just okay, I can probably dominate this person intellectually, and you start unpacking it, and you start pointing out all these inconsistencies. I mean, does it make you feel better?
Okay,
that could be the reason why I do it.
Okay,
right? I don't know. There's some deep shit here to talk about.
So I want to so yes, there can be some sort of ego here. Right, it could be some sort of ego. I don't.
Well, let's put the word "could" aside. There is an ego.
There's
here,
definitely an ego there.
I
think there's definitely an ego there to do it, but I don't think you personally do it because when I am able to defend myself holistically, you end up changing.
Yeah, and I feel more fulfillment when that happens.
Right,
to be
so
honest.
The value in this way of prodding someone is actually to be I am looking for another way to live my life. Really desperately, or not maybe desperately. I actually want my mind to be changed, right? And that requires this discourse, this argumentative process, to be like, and you finally meet someone who's articulate. The problem here is you need to meet someone articulate enough who can, explain it, right?
So, okay, well, I'm going to interject for a second because I don't think that I'm looking to change. I don't want to be wrong for the purposes of then altering my lifestyle.
Okay.
I think I want to just find the truth. I just want to find some solid foundation to base my belief and my decisions on. That's the reason why.
Right.
If I was going to take a very, unemotionally influenced approach to this,
right,
that's how I would describe it. I would say that I'm just looking to ensure that there is no dispute behind the statement that we are going to conclude with at the end of a discussion.
Right. So, okay, I want to go back to Zhang's kind of stance on this. Like, whether it's necessary or it's not necessary. So I just want to, before you rebuttal, I do think it is necessary in some capacity because it requires some clarity for the individual who's doing it. It might be annoying because it's very challenging, but like it provides that individual some sort of clarity. Granted, there's a good control over the ego. If the ego's too strong, it's going to want to be right. Right, rather than trying to be skeptical and just really like almost proving Einstein's theory. That's we're still proving it today. So in essence, like that's what Rob is doing. In essence, is very similar to this. This thing has to be wrong somewhere. Even Einstein's theory till today, neutrinos. We have experiments, billions of dollars today. His theories came out a long time ago.
Over 100 years ago.
This is a healthy level of skepticism I think, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's not what we're seeing, because we do know a lot of individuals who are very similar in nature to Rob, but are more on an ego, like I can't be wrong, because if I'm wrong, oh my God, like that's my whole life. I am just fucked. I can't be wrong. I'm going to battle. I'm going to be delusional about it. So there's subtle differences that I see here. It even allows for a podcast like this to occur, right?
Yeah.
So
I think part of the challenge here is like, there's one thing talking about science, but now we're talking in the realm of like morality and like ethics.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get into also some weird stuff about like value conflicts. Like some people, value things differently. Like some people just like the taste of meat.
Yeah.
And some people don't really care about the suffering of animals, right? It's just human beings are at the top of the food chain, so why should they care about the suffering of everything below them? And there's a lot of conservatives out there that kind of are in that mindset. And a lot of people value comfort.
Right. The comfort of not even having to think about.
Well, that's what I want to explore a lot here, because obviously it's the most unknown to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like the opposite part of who I am would be somebody who goes through life just accepting things to be true at the surface. They don't have to dig. They don't have to ask why.
That's like the majority of the population, I would say, right?
Right.
Right.
So what is it like? What are the benefits and what are the disadvantages of that? Of living that way? Like obviously you've heard ignorance is bliss. The whole idea of blue pill, red pill. Cypher chooses the blue pill over the red pill after having awareness of the red pill, right? Like in the Matrix, I'm obviously talking about here. He chooses to want to not know any better.
Yeah. I'll tell you right now, my experience is deep diving this whole animal cruelty and all this type of stuff, watching the videos, understanding the arguments, seeing that I vote with my dollars, right? Like I invest,
Fair.
right? And I vote with my dollars, and I cannot vote on animals like being slaughtered and I'm eating it. When I deep dove that, I opened up, I took the red pill and I saw it for what it is. I saw the entire system. I cannot unsee that now. Like, and I'm telling you guys, I want to eat meat, but I cannot. Like, it's so powerful in my mind that I just can't do it. And like I said, it's been 3 weeks now. I can't go back. I maybe can. I don't know. It's a very powerful message, but go ahead, Zhang. Like,
I'm like on the edge here, right? Like part of me is just like, I enjoy the comfort of being in the Matrix. Like I'm not ready to like take the red pill and be like, okay, I'm going to stop eating meat. Cause a large part of me knows that it's wrong, right? I'm perpetuating the suffering of animals. I know what I'm doing is not sustainable for the environment. Yeah, so there is this like cognitive dissonance, but I think a lot of people live with that, right? A lot of people do things that they know are wrong, and they try to live with it by, I don't know, probably like spending all that time on Instagram or
Yeah,
So
coping.
so do you think then that like it's not about one person or these different types of people being better or worse in any capacity? They're obviously just different, and the person who chooses to accept the blue pill mentality and like not ask the why, the how, the when, and all that, not dig deeper. Do you think that there's some threshold that you guys would be comfortable with of ignorance? Like, I'm trying to frame this question so that it actually makes sense. But right now, let's take the example of the veganism, right? You, David, just said that you were aware of the fact that you are doing detriment to society by not participating in the veganist lifestyle. So you have some awareness, but you're not ready to accept more information that's going to convince you to stop behaving this way. Now, you can take a person who's a little bit further from that, who doesn't even know that they're doing something bad to society, and they're just eating meat.
Yeah.
Now, let's say you can take it even further and say that you can convince the person that maybe they don't even know animals exist to begin with. Like, at what point does the ignorance become too much that it actually becomes detrimental to the character?
I mean, I think, again, it depends on the type of person you're. I think I always see myself as like a truth seeker. So even when you said that, I was like, okay, what's my like 5-year plan on this like meat eating thing? And I like to think that in 5 years, hopefully, I don't want to say fingers crossed, like, because it's my choice, right? But I would hope that I'd be in a position where like I'm not eating as much meat as I am now. Like, even cutting down, like maybe that's where it starts, right? Like maybe I'll eat meat like once a week. Like even that, like that would be huge, right?
So if I were to make a decision, like personally, because I've asked this question as a teenager and as a young adult, people, when I'm talking with some friends, whatever, just shooting the shit, this question would come up relatively often, actually. Like, would you prefer just not to know? Do you prefer the method of ignorance is bliss, or do you prefer knowing everything and being aware of it, right? Like, the question has come up not exactly in that framework, but it's come up in many different contexts. So, for example, would you prefer to be a guy that doesn't even know about anything like what it's like to be with a partner, like, and just be ignorant to it and live your life complacently that way? Or would you rather have had someone and lost them and know that feeling, but at least you lived and experienced that, that pleasure, for example? Like, that's an example that's, somewhat parallel to this. And I've never really, I always thought I knew the answer to this, and now that, like, you made this comment to me, it's completely fucked up my head in terms of what I think the correct answer is. Like,
I think again it goes like case by case, right? It's like how did it happen? Like if I got into a relationship and my girlfriend just did me real dirty, like cheated on me like a bunch of times, and then just like before she left took a shit on my bed, like that might change my, like, I would be like, you know what? I think it would have been better if
to not know at all.
To not know at all, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, again, I think it goes back to like just, I mean, because we're talking about the job thing too, right? It's just, is the grass greener? Like, would it be better if I didn't know? I think you just gotta have to be content with whatever situation that your life ended up in. Like, that's probably the best way to go, and just say like, okay, well, I learned this, and what am I gonna do with all that knowledge and wisdom, and keep moving. And as long as you don't let those experiences go to waste, like, you'll just, because if you don't learn something from your mistakes, you're just gonna keep living in that loop of like, I call it the karmic loop.
But okay, so the interesting thing is, this is where it becomes a little bit ironic, because in order for me to learn not to make these mistakes again, I have to seek truth. So like that almost tells me I have to take the red pill, because how am I going to learn about how to dodge these obstacles in life and dodge the struggle if I don't know? And I can only know if I learn. So it's like there's a catch-22 here, where it's like, it's nice to not feel the pain by mechanism of ignorance, but in order to avoid that pain altogether, you have to take the red pill and know the truth, right? Like, you know what I'm saying here?
I do, but I don't think you know the truth. I think we do a lot of speculating.
Sure.
We like do a lot of like, hey, this is our best guess. But I mean, that's the type of people we are. Like, we like to like basically create this like virtual future and like come up with these speculations, and then like say, okay, I think we've got a simulation that's like 95% accurate, and then we're gonna try and like say, okay, this seems like the best bet. But I mean, reality is usually different, and like I've made a bunch of bad calls, right? And I'm sure everyone here has like made those, right? And I think the truth is elusive. I think the more you think you have the grasp on it, the more it'll lose you.
So on a spectrum of red pill and blue pill, let's pretend like these things could be displayed as extreme left, extreme right, like on some form of spectrum. Where do you think each of you guys stand in terms of red pillism and blue pillism, and where do you think you would want to be if you can go back in time and start with a clean slate and relive your life?
I think for me, it's like I'm slowly taking the red pill. I'm opening the capsule, I'm crushing it up, I'm maybe snorting a couple lines here and there, and then like, yeah, eventually I'll get to the red pill. But who knows though? Because I mean, like Cypher in the Matrix, like you get to the truth and you're just like, oh man, I wish I didn't know that.
Yeah, man.
And that happens like in a lot of contexts, right? Like you think you want to know the truth, and then you're just like, oh man,
I wish I never knew that.
Wish I never knew that.
So right now, to sort of directly answer the question, 0 being red pill, 100 being blue pill, where do you think that you stand right now? I know it's a stupid question, but
20?
like 20, so you're closer to red pill territory.
I mean, I've had some like rude awakenings, let's just say.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, COVID, I think maybe a lot of people have gone through that. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people will have these like epiphany moments in their lives.
So
and it's scary, but you got to be glad though, because I mean, I would prefer to live in the truth, but I don't think I think the other thing is like people think they have the choice. And I don't think people really have as much of a choice as they think they do.
But you can have a choice. So, for example, the veganism, you can choose to hear that I'm not going to eat meat because I don't want to kill animals, as an example. Or I don't want animals to suffer. Let's keep it a little more realistic here. And that's all you want to know. You don't want to know how they're suffering, where they're suffering, why they're suffering. You don't want to... That, to me, would be like a blue pillar. Like, that's a 90% blue pillar.
Yeah.
Right?
But I mean, what my argument there is like, who knows if in like 10 years from now, people realize like, oh, it's actually like all this, like all of these resources that we put into like creating this supply for meat, it's actually destroying our planet like really badly. Like, oh, we had to create all like, think about all the corn that we grow instead of actually having a very biodiverse like environment. Mm-hmm. Right? And, you know, in the movie Interstellar, it's like, oh, there's a blight, and the only thing that we can grow is, like, corn. Well, what if it was the other way around, where it's like, oh, there was a blight, and it only affected corn. And then I'm like, oh, shit, now we're screwed.
Yo, that's, like, a awesome Just Desserts. Like, if, you know, like, Interstellar, I didn't even catch that one. I don't even know if you meant to put it in. It's like, we made so much fucking corn, and we made it so resilient that, like, if... like doomsday does happen, corn's all we're eating, boys. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like we're feeding corn to like all these animals. It's like, well, listen, you fuckers, you're gonna eat this corn too now. Like, you know what I mean?
So like there's a difference here between talking about whether or not, you know, you want to know more about the animal, like the specific topic of veganism or not. But there's more of like on a general level, is there like a part, like who David Zhang is? Is there a part of you that is like always gonna want to know more like about the details to get the truth out?
I'm gonna be honest with you, like I got shook. Like you think you want to know the truth, and the truth hits you, and then you kind of get scared. You're just like, do I really want to keep digging? Do I really want to keep like peeling the mask off?
Right.
Like, it's scary as fuck.
So now that you've been through this, my second question, which is the follow-up, is if you can go back, would you prefer to be more blue pillish?
No. I think, like, you get to a point where, like, everything just starts turning over and, like, you have no choice but to keep going.
Right.
And that's kind of where I'm at right now. Like, well, like, why would I want to stop?
So isn't it funny that in The Matrix, Morpheus tells Neo, once you take the red pill, there's no going back?
Yeah.
Like, isn't that irony that the way that you described it right now, it's like that's the parallel between them that the Wachowski brothers sort of drew in that movie when they wrote the script, right? Like, it's amazing the realism. I mean, just
an aside, like, now they're both women.
I know, I was going to say they're actually the Wachowski sisters now.
And there's no going back.
There's no
going back. Jesus Christ.
So I just want to ask Roy as well, like, you, blue pill, red pill, where do you think you are?
I'm definitely like a red pillar. And it comes with its own like kind of manic episodes at times. Like, you know, I was deep diving the system and how it was all screwed up, all the stock markets, all this. Looks like it was. You know what I mean? And like it fucked me to the core. Like, and it was so noisy, and I could tell you right now, if I was just a little of a lesser being, it would have destroyed me. You know what I mean? And that's only one of the red pills I've taken. I eat red pills for breakfast. You know what I mean? So it's like,
it's complicated, man. And to think about what you would prefer to be is a difficult question to answer, because you're answering it in the moment of where you stand on that spectrum already. So if
do we turn away from like the realities? Like, do you think Roy is a person who turns away from knowledge? Right. So it's like your actions speak.
Well, turning away from it and not seeking it are two different things.
And there's also what Zhang was implying there a little bit earlier is he's that, you know, there's a pragmatism to it. It's just like, oh, I know this thing is going to destroy me. I can already smell it coming. This idea. So and just to get an just to give more kind of context and empathy for the listeners, like if you watch the movie Inception or anything like that, like ideas are very dangerous.
Very dangerous. Like,
so,
and that's what I guess was getting out with the red pill. Like, you think you're losing your sanity.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking about the, you know, I don't know if you're familiar with like H.P. Lovecraft and like Chulu.
Yeah, Cthulhu. Or
I don't know how to pronounce it, but like
yeah.
they say when you see him, or you, like when, you know, regular people, they have no conception of what that evil looks like, and when they see it, they will lose their sanity.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of think about like taking the red pill as something like that, where especially when you do a deep dive into like, you know, how fucked up the system is and how truly evil some of the people on this planet are. Like when you get in touch with like, because I guess there's aspects of red pill in like coming to terms with like true evil.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a scary thing. And like, do we keep digging after that? Like, again, like there's no going back.
Mm-hmm.
And I do fear for my sanity. And I do fear that like, if I keep digging, I might become more insane.
So what I like, the reason why I asked the question whether you want to be, you could choose to be blue pill or red pill, is because in this world we have a narrative sort of projected on us that is convincing us to be blue pillars, right? Like that's the societal norm.
Well,
like
look at Disney, right? So just think of a Disney movie.
Correct. Look at everything you see in your day-to-day activities. You are constantly being bombarded with information that is projecting ideas onto you, and you're to consume based on those ideas, right? Like they show you a delicious picture of a McDonald's juicy meaty burger, and it's just like, oh, you want this, and so they want you not to ask the questions. They want you to just consume without asking, because it's profitable for the people on the other end of it.
Yeah. Do you think, sorry, can I interrupt? So do you think it has like a, well, I'll let you finish.
Well, I guess all I really want to conclude with is like, look, that's the dangerous side of being a blue pillar, is that you can just be pulled in any direction without a lot of effort.
Yes.
Right?
There you go.
Right?
And I think that's in there. There's key there. Like, we're more controllable when we decide to just be ignorant.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally,
but it's like it's a ticking time bomb. I think it's like eventually the jig is gonna be up.
Oh man.
And like, is it in our life? Like, people are just gambling that like that's not gonna happen in our lifetime, right? And I talk to a lot of people, like even with like, hey, like let's do something to help our planet or whatever. It's like, oh well, you know, we probably won't fix it in our lifetime.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's your attitude. Well, if that's your attitude that like we can't fix things in our lifetime, like it's not gonna happen.
It's never gonna happen.
And then, but then what's gonna happen? Like, you're gonna think that the bad stuff is gonna come, like what, in the next generation? Like, oh, we'll be long dead before this planet goes to shit. But like, I mean, we're gonna get our own just desserts, right? Like,
Absolutely.
It's probably gonna happen in our lifetime. And then we talk about, you know, red pill. It's just about a matter of timing. Like, do we take the red pill now and like see what's coming? And like, that's not a happy thing either.
No, because we're already like, so it's so crazy. We're already weakened individuals, and then we're trying to like, we all live in North America, and we had a very safe, comfortable lifestyle, period. You know what I mean? I know things are relative, but from the things I've heard are happening on the other side of the planet, it's nothing. So it's like us waking up and starting to see these things, like, and you know, people from other cultures coming and telling us about these things, you know, that's there's a post-traumatic like effect on us when we do it, and it's no different from like waking up and like, you know, looking, eating the red pill or whatever.
It's kind of interesting you talk about trauma in the context of truth, because like the truth kind of is traumatic
because it hurts,
and you remember it, and like it sticks with you, and like I don't know, when you think about like that's like losing your innocence, like
so I have to ask, you know, you at least, Zhang, because I know you're not afraid of it. Like Rob's not as afraid of it, or maybe you are. I have no idea.
Of what? I don't know.
Of the truth, like, you know what I mean, or just seeing.
I thought I wasn't afraid of the truth, but when you see the like, because there's levels to this game, right? Like, and sometimes like the truth isn't really. I mean, sometimes you think the truth is benign, or you think that it's going to be good for you, but you don't think that it's just information, but like. When it truly hits you and you feel like the full brunt of the pain of it, like, then you start thinking like, maybe I don't want to. Yeah. I mean, it goes back to the cipher and the steak scene from The Matrix. But.
Well, the interesting thing is that I put myself through some serious trauma at a younger age. And when I say serious trauma, by no means am I comparing my trauma to like serious trauma that people are enduring on the other side of the planet as well. Like as they would say, a first world problem, right? I put myself through a lot of mental stress by decisions that I chose to make when I was younger, and I think that actually desensitized me to being afraid of the truth, because I essentially like walked myself into hell and just said, hey, you know, unknowingly, it happened like unknowingly, right? Because I was too innocent to understand the consequences of my actions. But I just walked into hell one day and was just like, oh, this is cool, you know. Felt the fucking wrath of the devil, and then now that I'm a little bit older, I'm a little bit less scared of the devil, right? Because like I've already been exposed to him. I kind of know the dangers of what it's like to be in hell, and I think that you're experiencing a parallel in terms of like type of hell that I went to, right?
Does it make things easier?
Not at all. I mean, okay, does it make it easier in what capacity? Because to say easier, am I able to sleep better at night? Yes, because I have learned that it's not as dangerous as it seems at first glance, right? It can be. You can work with the conditions that it brings into your life. Mm-hmm. You know, you can manage those expectations. That's the difference.
So, do you think like eating the red pill at a younger age is like, or like starting at like the smaller red pills, like should you work your way up? Maybe?
I think that everybody in this world has their own journey, and I don't think that the world can be what it is or move forward if we don't have the right balance of red pillars and blue pillars. You are always going to need people to follow instruction and execute tasks without questioning, and you're always going to need people who are going to do the thinking and the deeper thought and like really expose the truth to themselves and endure whatever damage comes with that. That is a necessary evil for some people. I don't think the whole world should expose themselves to the truth at a young age. I think it'll be completely detrimental to society, and I don't think that everybody should turn around and say, I'm just going to eat the steak and ignore the fact that I'm in the Matrix. I think that both
So
extremes.
Should everybody be on a journey towards the truth?
I think that the truth is a term that we're describing as if it means something definitively. Like, what is the truth?
It's a red pill.
It's the red pill.
Well, if you're saying the red pill, like, so let's take an example of the veganism again, right? Or like, let's take the McDonald's logo or the McDonald's advertisements. Is the truth finding out exactly what's happening at the farm level when they're actually, you know, killing the animals to make the meat before it gets to the production or to the distribution facilities? Like, where do you stop understanding what the truth is? Like, I don't know the full, like, procurement chain.
It goes back to the journey, right? Like, and there's, like, levels of the red pill.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for me, I'm kind of on that, like, journey, like, with respect to, like, veganism, or let's just call it just, like, being more ethical with my food choices.
Yeah.
And that's the best way to describe it. Like, I'm on that journey, and like part of me is deliberately not jumping into like a more extreme, I guess, like view, because I know it would mean like I have to change my lifestyle.
Okay, so then I would say this then. I would say that the answer in a very short, blunt way of saying it is no. I don't think that everybody should seek the truth. I think that we need people that can be controlled. As cruel as that sounds, we need people that can be controlled. We can't manage the growth of our society without having the workhorses. We just can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, this is something I've been like kind of thinking about, like with respect to even like psychedelics or drugs or the counterculture movement. It's like, if I think that was kind of the thing that was scaring the establishment, right? Like, you have a bunch of people taking these drugs and psychedelics and like now waking, like in some senses it is kind of like the red pill. But if they're like, if a bunch of people were just like, we don't want to play this game anymore, you couldn't sustain a system, like if a bunch of people are just like, we're not going to pay taxes anymore, like we're not gonna take on debt.
Yeah.
Right. Like
everything collapses.
Everything collapses. So I guess like I kind of get what you're saying. Like, okay, we need some people to like drink the Kool-Aid of the government for it to sustain. But like, I mean, it goes back to other like philosophical questions. Like, is this system like even good for us?
Yeah.
Well, okay, hold on. And this is the question of the
right.
boxes that we talked about with another person who we're going to be interviewing very soon. Yeah. We're all put into boxes at a very young age. Now, the context of the conversation is very different than this one, but the idea behind it is the same. We develop children by socializing them to the structure of what we have today.
The system.
And that could be detrimental for some people, because maybe they don't fit well with the system. But what's the alternative? And like, look, I don't know if there is a proper solution to the problem, but I do think that what we have right now is sort of like the best iteration we've gotten to date. And I think that we can improve on it, right? But I do still think at a fundamental level we need structure for humans.
Yeah, we definitely need structure, but I think we're kind of in this like late stage capitalism where, I mean, look at how many people are depressed and like hate their jobs or hate their life, and like, you know, the wage is stagnating, right? Mm-hmm. And I think, yeah, I mean, things are just looking very, very bleak for, I think, a bunch of people.
Well, revolution is coming. Sooner or later, it's going to come.
So my stance on this is like, and I understand your point of having a combination of people who are going to follow and, you know, like be governed. You know what I mean? But I think we're at that late stage capitalism, late stage humanity. You know, like I think literally, like, and this is another thing that we all turn away from. And it's just the fact that like we are going extinct. Like, say it with me. We are going extinct soon. Like, real soon. Like, you know what I mean? So, in a normal situation, I like the Japanese philosophy of Kaizen, of small steps. No. We need radical change. Like, it needs radical change. Like, it's just all not working.
I remember I had this conversation
of the entire population of all species are gone since the Industrial Revolution. 2/3.
Because, okay, so we were talking about the choice between... Would you prefer radical change that leads to our extinction versus a do-nothing
slowly
and then also going
like
extinction?
a slow-paced death?
Like, what would you prefer it out of the two? Or like, if you're a gambling man, like, which one would you go with?
Gambling man, as in which one do I think is more probable, or which one would I prefer? They're very two different very questions.
Okay, I'd like to hear both.
So I think in terms of probability, I think that we are going to make a radical change at some point that will lead to our death. I think that will happen.
Yeah.
Someone's going to lose their nuts, and they're going to just like, you know, nuclear warfare perhaps. Maybe it's artificial intelligence. I got a video sent to me the other day with these fucking war drones. They're like these precision drones that can be programmed to actually look for indicators in your facial expressions, and then they just shoot you.
Okay.
Because you don't fit the... Anyway, like, I think something crazy will happen like that.
So everyone's played a first-person shooter, and most of us are pretty fucking trash at it.
Yeah.
So now just imagine something that has ultimate aim, and that could probably kill like 3 people.
Yeah, it can be flown like anywhere.
Like,
and like it can come into your house. It's just like... Anyways, we're too hypothetical here. Yeah. To answer the second part of the question here, which was...
What would you prefer?
What would I prefer?
Yeah. A slow death?
At my age right now, a slow death, because I would like to live the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I want my son to live his life. So
you don't want to take the chance of like... Because I guess like...
But he's going to be dealing with this shit.
So you think that the suffering is going up as the decay of our civilization continues? Is that the argument here?
So the scientific argument is that the rate of change is not fast enough for us to save this planet.
If it's like, if we stick with the pace that we're going right now, it's going to be slow extinction. Yeah. Whereas... the other side is like radical change. It might be like a 50-50.
Okay, that's a different exploration.
Yeah,
because you framed it as if we're going extinct if we go quickly.
Yeah, that's all right. Like, that's the better one.
then, I mean, biologically, my answer should be take the 50-50 shot and avoid the 100% death.
Well, that's it.
Like, that's the way it is. Like, but as a emotional being who has a son. I don't want to, like, I would like to get as much out of it as possible.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting question because, like, the practical part of me is like, no, there's nothing to debate here. You want to go with the 50-50 where you have a chance, right?
Yeah.
It's no different than the person who has, like, some form of illness in the hospital about
it's
to
like,
die.
do you want to go with this crazy like
operation? Yeah, that you could die immediately, or we can sustain your life for another 3 months, 6 months, a year.
Listen.
But some people make that choice. So like some people are like, hey, do you want to like give chemo a go, or do you want to just like
Slowly go.
enjoy? I mean, I think it's kind of the same argument. Like, do you want to enjoy some level of like quality of life, but know that it's like your times, your days are numbered.
Yeah.
But now you're talking about not enjoying the quality of your life. You're talking about enjoying the quality of your lineage. Because we're not talking the time frame of like 30 years. We're talking about.
But I guess that's the other thing. Like, also, you don't know. I think that's like the better. Like, I mean, it's like
you don't even know when you're.
You don't even
die.
know when. Like the slow burn of like extinction could be 2, could be 3 generations.
Like, look how fast the pandemic like affected us. Like, it just came out of fucking right field.
So that's even more of an argument to go to the technical side and say take the 50-50
take
shot.
The 50-50. But okay, the ultimate thing here that I want to really talk to the listeners about is just like, so what if we fucking die? Like, that's the reality. That's what we're always worried about, our ultimate death here, and it's just like humans are going extinct.
But that's the ultimate red pill, right? Like, you're describing the ultimate red pill. You are now trying to get people to swallow the one pill that we are literally programmed not to want to swallow, which is accepting that you're going to die one day.
Yeah.
Which is also like just a crazy thought experiment I was talking about. Like, what if we knew that there was this like asteroid coming towards the Earth, and like we are like, it's gonna like blow us up, like, and the planet's not gonna be sustainable in, let's say, like 6 months. Like, what are people gonna do?
Well, there's movies on this.
Yeah.
And there's like guesses, like they're guesses at what behavior would be. I mean, the reality is I do think that we'll fall into a state of anarchy, obviously. Yeah. I think
or maybe not. Or maybe it will just be like...
maybe.
I mean...
Just love, all of a sudden everyone loves each other because like, hey, we're all gonna die anyways. Fuck it.
Just like, what's the point? Like, why don't we just like work together and like try and enjoy the rest, like the next like 6 months that we have?
Because I think the human element of like what creates the 7 deadly sins will surface.
So I think
I want to get mine. Like, I want to enjoy my life.
I think as a red pillar, you may not choose the chaos mode. I think as a blue pillar, waking up to the asteroid in the sky, you're going to be like, what? That's where you're going to deal with the chaos right at the end of your life, making it super traumatic. I don't know. You know what I mean? You're really, you're taking it in your 20s and realizing how fuck up the world is, or you do it when you're like 50, 60.
Well, see, the thing is, this is the truth. I think what'll happen in that situation is we won't accept that the asteroid's going to kill us. We will be as
delusional. We
will fight as hard as we can to find a solution, no matter how impossible or impractical it seems.
Yeah.
That's what will happen. Like, and that won't be the whole planet, because some people are just going to be like, well, we're all going to die, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah.
But overall, our species will try. It will try.
All right. So I do want to wrap it up now.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we're there.
That's another episode of Risky Thoughts, and thanks for listening, thinkers. And I want to thank Zhang for coming on the show.
Thanks.
Great.
This has definitely been like a very eccentric conversation, but whatever.
This was a different format from our normal podcast, but I actually like this panel format as well. I think it's very interesting. A lot of ideas were exchanged, a lot of different perspectives exposed. And obviously, as normal, we normally close out here with make sure you guys follow us on Instagram at riskythoughts.to. Send us any messages with any ideas for discussion points or feedback, any of the above. And we always appreciate everyone for listening. So thank you very much. And yes, thank you, David, for joining us today. It was a pleasure. Okay, guys, have a good night.